Hi guys. I'm here with Hardfire. We are at the Union Chapel.
Hej, interesują Cię gwiazdy? Nie wstydź się, bo mnie tak. Dlatego chciałam Cię zaprosić za kulisy życia ciekawych ludzi, świata muzyki i srebrnego ekranu. Pytasz kiedy? W każdą środę o 21:00 w Polskim Radiu Londyn w programie Gwiazdy Niki. Gwiazdy Niki!
The original lineup. I'm here with Kai.
Yo, how's it going?
The bass player, drummer, Steve.
Hello.
Hello. So this is the lineup. Ross, which is we just popped out for a second.
Ross
guitarist.
he realised he didn't have anything to wear, so he's run out.
Yes, and we obviously all prepared with nice clothing.
So he's gonna.
Yeah, and that's right. And he was the original. We actually met Ross in a hi-fi shop.
Yes, that was a long time ago. God. Actually, it wasn't. Ross worked in a hi-fi shop, but I knew Ross because his sister is a friend of mine, and literally, we went through every guitar player I could think of, and his sister kept saying, "Oh, my brother plays guitar," and I was like, "Oh no, you're not going to be."
Every brother plays guitar.
Everyone's brother plays, exactly. And then in the end, we were so desperate that we got him in, and he was great. And then we used to go and listen to the mixes of the songs in the hi-fi shop, so we could hear what it sounded like through a decent speaker system. But that was a long time ago. It was almost legendary.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, you are legendary. You are a legendary band in the sense that, your first album. I think how many songs from it actually went to were in the top 20? At least 5.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, we released 5 records, didn't we?
5 singles on the first album.
Because you played not long ago, your reunion was in Forum in London. You played. So what's the audience reaction now?
Well, we played. Yeah, it was at the Kentish Town Forum, which is we've actually played there before. We played there in like 2011. And I remember it being, one of the reason we chose that venue is because we remember it being a great venue. It was it's got that classic kind of rock and roll venue, theatre. And it was brilliant, It was like, it was a difficult day because there was a rail strike. So people struggled to get there, and they really struggled to get home.
So
but people
commitment to get to see it.
And people still managed to get there, and the crowd they just went crazy. It was a really emotional night actually, and I think there was, people who are probably should know better. They're a little bit older now, and they should have learnt their lesson. But there was a lot of drinking going on.
It got a bit leery.
Yeah, there was people in the mosh pit who probably should have stopped going in the mosh pit about 15 years ago.
They want to relieve the
But
moment.
it was great. It was great. It was
really good. As a band, you always want your music to mean something to people, but you're always a little bit self-conscious about having those kind of ideas. But on that night, speaking to people afterwards, and it holds so many good memories for people, and it still mattered to them. That was really, really special for me, I think.
Yeah. So, but how did you sort of meet up? Because you're from the same town, Staines, right? So in a way, it was a surprise for you to make it this big, or did you always knew it's gonna be? You're gonna. With this material that you had.
I don't think we kind of ever. It's one of those strange things in that part of you goes, well, of course it's going to work because it's got to work, because if it doesn't work, I don't know what I'm going to do. On the other hand, you could never imagine anyone saying, nothing ever happens to anyone from Staines. Nothing ever happens of that nature.
Like Ali G, that was kind of pretending to be from Staines.
Yeah, he's I think he's from around here actually, isn't he? He's from North London, But so it's just people just So it was kind of we didn't expect. I don't think we expected. When we had a part of the arrangement of our deal was that if we sold a certain amount of records, which was like 60,000. I think if it went silver, which in the UK was 60,000 albums, then the record company had to make a second album with us. So we were just thinking, wow, if we can sell 60,000, then when we get to make another album, we can, you know. But then when it kind of just went and it kept going, and suddenly we're playing in the United States, we're playing all over Europe, and we're playing in Japan, and it's, you know, it's like, well, what's going on here?
Then it's even more pressure for the next albums, for the, you know, next albums to be as successful as the first one. But for the first one, it's like the writing from the, you know, from the past 10 years, right?
Yeah.
You know, your experiences from your whole life come to the first album, and then you have 1 year to come up with a, you know, with a follow-up, right? So it's, I suppose that's what people really connected to, the, you know, the what was on the first album, you know, was the reality, you know, reality of life for most people in UK. And you know each other, you knew each other, you and Steve, right? You knew each other before you put the band together. Right?
Yeah, but we all sort of knew each other. I mean, I'd see Kai around town and would say hi, and you know, we knew each other from about the places. But Steve and I had actually played in a band together before. And Ross, obviously, Ross was just a little boy, wasn't he? All right, Rossi. So we didn't see him out too much, you know. But so yeah, we knew each other, but we didn't really get it together until.
But so how was it like touring together? Do you have any sort of funny stories from the road back in the days? Because this is the take 2, right? Oh yeah, he's got one.
No, I don't. I'm trying to think. Like,
Don't.
Learn how to tour. There is kind of like an art of touring.
Yeah.
You know, we inherited a very experienced crew who probably knew every trick in the book, or you know how everything's done, whereas we were completely sort of green to sort of the routines, the nightly routines, as it were, and you find yourself filling up a lot of spare time with all this kind of beer and stuff that seems to be lying around. You've got social situations to get on with after the shows also, and yeah, something you got to. It's a craft in itself.
That's right. That's definitely the touring. You left. You know, you kind of. I wish I knew now. Well, no, not now. I wish I knew then what I know now.
Yeah, that's the case.
You know, going out on the road, because it is like a something. Because I mean, this is the weird thing of like doing this, whatever this is. No one tells you. You know, you write your songs and you practice your instrument and all that sort of stuff. That's fine, but there's nowhere where you go to learn how to behave on stage. There's nowhere where you go to learn how to do an interview. There's nowhere you go and learn how to deal with fans, or you know, all these things. Kind of, you just have to figure it out as you go, right? And a lot of the time, you can be sometimes in a quite stressful situation. You can be really tired. You can be really drunk. You know, whatever. And
you're very young.
Yeah, so. and you don't really know what, you know, how to do it, and you sort of muddle your way through. But it's almost like you do all that learning in public. You don't get a chance to sort of go, oh, you know, I wish I'd done that there, or I hadn't done that. And I actually found, was just before we got back together, I found some old videos of us, and I watched them, and I wouldn't have watched them back in the day because I was scared of watching them and going, oh no, you guys are rubbish. So I didn't want to watch them. I was always worried about my own performance, you know. And I watched them, and I was like, actually, a lot of this is great.
You can appreciate it after a while.
But also, I'd change that. I'd do that differently. I'd do, you know, and you sort of just, these are the things you know now when you sort of grown up and have a bit of time to reflect. You know, at the time, Steve and I, we'd both been in bands that had got signed and not got anywhere, right? So we were very conscious of like, this could be our last chance. So super on it and trying to do everything as pro as we can. And I think sometimes we forgot to enjoy it and probably worried too much. A little bit, and should have just gone, you know, if we just went with it a little bit more, we'd probably have come to better decisions.
Yeah, because it's a lot of pressure in the sense that you actually, you know, it's one in a million actually, because there's so many talented people, you know, so many people that, you know, can play and stuff. So, and it's very often lots of luck involved, but you have to have the talent, you have to have a hard work, you know, and you have to stick together as well through the thick and thin. And then, but still, you need luck, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, you know, that's how many. We've said this before, and you know, how many great bands are out there that just happen to be playing. I mean, it's different now because I think with the way, even though a lot of things are harder, you know, you can obviously find your niche, and you can, you know,
your following online. Yeah.
But you know, back then, how many great bands were there that were just weren't in fashion at the time, that just didn't get a look in, and you know. But it is, you know, it's you know, like if you, again, when we came out, you had all these other bands coming out. So we hit just as you had, you know, we just had like Libertines a couple of years earlier, the Strokes. We come along, there's the Kaiser Chiefs, there's Kasabian, Future Heads, Maximo Park, and then shortly after us there's Arctic Monkeys. There's this wave of British bands and everyone's very excited about it. Now after the Arctic Monkeys come out, if you were sort of a band trying to cut through then, well, it was quite hard because suddenly there were loads of bands and everyone's getting a bit fed up with it as well. So you're kind of, then it's really hard.
You're at the end of the wave.
Yeah, but we were lucky to be in the right place at the right time.
So what inspires you to write songs? How do you go about writing?
It's just like it's sort of just like day to day. It's just like eating, right? You go, you sort of just do it because it's what you do.
So it's a different thing now than back then, or is it still the same?
Yeah, I mean, these days it's sort of different because you're thinking, well, what do I want to say? That was always the thing we had, is that it always felt that first album we sort of said everything. I mean, if you actually look through it and you see all the things, it sort of dealt with everything, and you kind of feel, well, I'm going over old ground here. So there was always the issue of like, well, what do we want to say and what is it, and found that really hard.
And your life changed as well after making it.
Yeah, exactly. I think your content does change. If you look at, and there's obviously a band that were way bigger than us, or in fact most other bands that have ever existed, but if you look at bands like U2, for example, they came out with this kind of punky, political sort of angle, and then started making love songs, and then started making off-the-wall crazy stuff. You can't just keep, if they'd have stuck with the same thing that worked in the mid-80s, it wouldn't have worked. It has to develop and change a little bit, but I don't know if they write songs
unless you're
differently.
Motorhead, that is.
Exactly. This is what works. Or AC/DC, or loads of bands that just like keep doing the same thing. That's cool as well. That is true.
I suppose in a pop, I suppose, and if more in a pop, you have to reinvent yourself slightly every album.
But even that's tricky because it's like let's walking the tightrope, isn't it? Because let's face it, if you've had a successful album, right, and this is, we wanted to do something, we wanted to feel like we'd developed and done something different, but your fans kind of want to hear what you've just done. That's what they fell in love with. So you have to sort of like take them by the hand a little bit. If you just come straight out, I think once you've obviously you got certain acts who manage to do that, but it's almost like that is their thing, isn't it? Like Madonna or Bowie or whatever, that is their thing. They're constantly changing, but with us, because of like what
you're more of a band, rather than an arty sort of,
And the reason people liked us was because they related to it. They kind of related to what we were saying. They saw it in their own lives. So if you then suddenly change, and they kind of, well, I can't relate to you anymore. So you're all stuck in that sort of like, it's like, it's such a fine line between, clever and stupid, isn't it?
Yes, good line. Maybe that's a title of the next song.
We were watching Spinal Tap earlier. I'm sorry, that was one of my lines.
Spinal Tap, classic.
As many lines are from Spinal Tap, so actually true.
So that's why that was actually that was a film that I went to do a degree in music here in UK, and that was the first ever lecture I had. They basically played us Spinal Tap.
And that's how it is, guys. That's all you need to know. My work here is done.
That was my preparation to the music business, and I didn't even realize if it was fake or if it was real, because I didn't have like no one ever told me about it before I went to uni. Well, guys, what's your favorite hard-fi song?
All right, well, this is hard. I'm going to go with Suburban Nights, because when we play it live, it's always a high point for me, and I enjoy it, and I find the lyrics relatable, which is maybe weird when it's your own song, but I do anyway. Yeah. So I'm going to go with that one.
I mean, it's kind of an obvious one, and there are lots of other tunes that I perhaps maybe resonate with me more, but Hard to Beat just changed our lives, and it's just still so much fun to play. I love the fact that it's sort of, it flirts in that territory of dance, whatever that was like, but it's sort of like, it just feels good. It's got a vibe to it. It always feels great to play it.
Yeah, one of my favourites. So, Kai?
I'm going to go for another one off the first album. It's Tied Up Too Tight, because it's kind of the embodiment of what goes on in your average hard-fi member's mind on a Friday evening. Always a high point live, and it was our first single that kind of started it all off.
And tell me your influences, like the most important artist or band for you.
Oh man, you put me on the spot now. If I'd have been doing interviews for like ages, I'd have had this down, but I haven't spoken to anyone for like 8 years, so I've forgotten.
Well, you should know that. You know, the first one, you got inspired by the first music that you fell in love with.
I honestly don't know, but I mentioned U2 before, and they're an influence. I really like the different bits, you know, the early stuff and the middle stuff and some of the later stuff. So they're a cool band, keep reinventing themselves. Great drums, amazing guitar, wicked vocals. They look cool.
It's all there.
I'm gonna go
with U2.
Yeah.
Specials, Clash, Gorillaz. They never seem to disappoint me. Those guys. Manu Chao, Sam Cooke.
It's supposed to be one.
Okay, Wham. I love Wham.
Wham.
Yeah.
Okay,
You listen to that first Wham album, man.
Good songs.
Yeah, exactly.
You know.
And they're street songs too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like, you know, if they didn't have different arrangement, like with the guitars, you know, could do a cover. Yeah.
My first favourite band was Madness.
Madness, yeah.
And when I got to a certain age, like, you know, trying to get into new and different stuff, I forgot about them at that point for quite a long time, and sort of rediscovered them later with, you know, an improved music mind and whatever, and got equally as blown away for another time round.
So all those good influences, I can hear all of them a bit in your music. You know, the Clash, definitely, you know, Madness and everything. Maybe you can play some Wham. And by the way, Oh no, I wouldn't put you on the spot. Like, it can be something that you know. You know all the lyrics. Oh yeah.
You don't even know
the depth, the depth of it.
Yeah.
I love me
a
some
tattoo,
Wham. Come on, show me no. By the way, what would be like the craziest thing that your fans ever did on the road? Any kind of people who try to, you know, lie in front of your tour bus or something?
I can tell my story. Once upon a time, when we played in Glasgow, a lady in the crowd tried to send me a message where she'd written something on a T-shirt for me to see, and she obviously thought about this, and the only way to send it to me, you can't throw a T-shirt; it's only going to land on the floor. So she wrapped it around a pint glass to give it a bit of more weight, and then threw that at me.
Yeah, incredibly accurate.
Incredibly accurately. It went way up. It was like a drop kick, you know, in rugby. It was like that. It went way up in the air, and as I was playing the drums, I saw it falling, and I couldn't actually get out of the way, and it actually hit me in the head. So
It was like a glass pint.
no, it was plastic, so it was okay. But message.
Watch out!
Message delivered. I can't remember.
I think it was like hard for you. Yeah, hard for you. That was my generic Scottish accent there.
Right. And that was hard on your head as well.
My face, yeah. Whilst playing the drums, I didn't miss a beat though.
Oh yeah,
That's right.
That's a preparation
That's
for for the road. Something happened to you?
Well, I do remember that story actually. It was always quite.
I mean, you know, you were like almost like the Elvis Presley of at the time.
I was the Elvis Presley of Staines. Not many people know that.
Yeah, the king.
But I don't know. That was kind of. I mean, the one I remember was, but that wasn't fans. That was Kai, saying hello Cardiff when we were in Sheffield. On the day of the Sheffield United Wednesday derby, when everyone's shouting Yorkshire, and then
Do to you?
well, they started chucking loads of like glasses at the stage, and Kai just sort of stepped behind the speaker and was fine. And I was sat there taking it all. Because we went out in Cardiff, and you basically stayed out, and you woke up about half hour before we went on stage, so I was still a bit confused.
Yeah.
Might have been something to do with it, yeah.
That's why back in America the bands play with
chicken wire,
the chicken wire in some bars, right?
The best fan experiences is always Japan, because they're not just because they are just so innovative. They're so really into it. They give you like crazy, amazing gifts. They turn up at the hotels before you even do. I mean, it's just you know.
That's why it's good to be big in Japan.
Yeah.
Sang about it, right? Alphaville.
Yeah, that was some good. Really had some really great times in Japan.
Well, guys, lovely talking to you. I hope you have a good gig tonight at the Union Chapel. A stand-up to cancer, Heartfire on stage tonight. I was talking to Kai, Steve, Richie from Heartfire, and we all, say hello to the Polish Radio London listeners. And
How you doing?
Hi, how are you? And maybe, so what song you gonna play? It's just to prove that you're not just the pretty face, and that you can play.
I can play The Entertainer by Scott Joplin, the first 5 bars. There you go.
Time, working such a bind, got some money to spend, living for the weekend. When it gets too much, I live for the rush, got some money to spend, living for the weekend.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. You can play that. Yeah, you can play the Elvis.
Take that out on the road.
Yeah, actually, you could do like a.
Places like this.
Acoustic Heartfire.
Just with the piano.
Yeah, the piano and it's a bit of shuffles.
Hej, interesują Cię gwiazdy? Nie wstydź się, bo mnie tak. Dlatego chciałam Cię zaprosić za kulisy życia ciekawych ludzi, świata muzyki i srebrnego ekranu. Pytasz kiedy? W każdą środę o 21:00 w Polskim Radiu Londyn w programie Gwiazdy Niki. Gwiazdy